20 Minute Tim's flagship episode 302. I'm your host, Jamie, and joined as always by Stephen.
Happy Easter, guys.
No, it's not. And Melly.
Yes.
It's Stephen, you put out the request, don't ruin episode 300. Because that was the episode that we were going to record immediately after playing Rangers at Ibrox. You didn't want Ange and the team to ruin episode 300.
Correct.
Have they ruined episode 302 though?
They have. It's entirely on them. It's their responsibility. That's that ruined. The day of laughter. Easter holiday Monday.
You were supposed to be, Melly, sitting here enjoying ourselves, slightly hungover from chocolate, but we're kind of hungover from the game and hungover from a disappointing performance and result, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a strange one because we've been so dominant at Hampden and winning games. I was going to the game yesterday, like, worried about the game because I thought it'd be quite an even game, but at the same time, not expecting Celtic to win, but not remembering that feeling of what it's like when you do lose at Hampden and have that after-match walk home nonsense, and you're just like, fuck, it's been a long time since I've felt this, and it's quite hard to take.
Last time, Stephen, I was that disappointed at Hampden was when Neil Lennon was given the permanent job. That's the last time Hampden brought such disappointment for me. But yesterday's game for me was disappointing in a way that I've not felt disappointed for a long time. Right off the bat, I thought it was a poor game of football. I thought there was no quality on show really whatsoever from any side. I thought it was a poor game of football. But for the first time in a long time under Ange, I was really, really disappointed with our approach to the game. We just never got a handle on it. We never imposed our style on Rangers. We never played our game.
No, I think it was garbage. I'm going to be totally honest up front. I thought it was terrible. From Celtic, I mean, it sounds like sour grapes. Sour grape. Definitely.
Did you say sour breaks?
That's what I meant, sour grapes.
Right. Right.
Definitely meant that. So, yeah. It sounds like sour grapes to sit here and say that the game was bad, right? It was, right, but the Celtic were garbage. Were absolutely terrible. I've since seen it back, and I honestly can't really think of any real passages of play or sustained periods of control that Celtic had in the game, and it was very, very uncharacteristic. Now, I'm left thinking that ultimately, we maybe get carried away at times as fans, and I'm not going to apologise for that because that's what it's like to be a football fan. Aye. But I think that my main takeaway from that game is that there's very, very little between these two teams, and I think we're constantly on a bit of a kind of razor's edge with it. It could go either way in any one of these games. Now, Celtic took them to Celtic Park recently and absolutely gubbed them, but it's kind of an outlier in the last few years. Most of the games have been pretty close, including the most recent one at Ibrox as well. This didn't go our way, and Celtic, quite frankly, didn't turn up. I think there were very, very few individual good performances, but I'm left thinking, we just didn't deserve to win that game, to be honest.
I think I'm going to just dig Stephen up on a point there, Melly, to say Celtic didn't turn up. I really hate to say this, I genuinely hate to say this, but I think they didn't turn up because I think Rangers did a good job on our key players.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Rangers have been poor against us in the last two games, and they've obviously... They've sort of remedied that. They've went and done something about it. Because when you look at the game recently, we spoke about it last week, and now when you're going out, we've played them 4 times this season. They've won 2, we've won 2, and I think we're kind of forgetting how far Celtic have come this season. Yes, that all goes without saying, but as we were talking about last night, we're not going to go and smash them 3 times in a month, are we? Yeah. That's very unrealistic considering we're 6 points ahead in the league. We're doing better than them in the league, but they're in a semi-final of Europe, and no matter how you dress it up, that is a good achievement. Bad teams, I can't remember any crap teams that have got to that stage, so they must be decent at what they do. So the 2 teams are close, and look, we lost a game, but we didn't deserve to win the game, and what Stephen's saying is right. It was poor from Celtic. But at the same time, you have to look at it and go, look, Celtic didn't turn up, but teams just don't turn up. There's reasons for that, and Celtic, while they didn't play their best, Rangers did stifle Celtic a bit, and Celtic could have done some things better to do that, but Celtic were passive, they were a bit lethargic, they were too slow in getting the ball moving quickly, and when you seen Rangers winning goal, they got that because they moved the ball quickly and Celtic weren't in a proper shape. Celtic didn't do that to Rangers at all, really, apart from the goal Celtic got, because that was a quick move where Rangers weren't ready. So when we seen that Rangers played 120 minutes during the week, that should have been Celtic going, right, go at them fast from the start. Don't give them a second to get back into shape. Don't give them a second to think, because concentration will go, legs will go, but Celtic couldn't get it going. And again, I'm looking at it and going, right, why is that? Rangers pressed Celtic well when Celtic were building out from the back. But again, I'm looking at it and going, one of the players I think can get past marks is Cal McGregor, but then I look to the two central midfielders. So when Celtic get the ball from defence into midfield, Rogic and Hatate were two of the poorer players. Because when you want Cal McGregor to get the ball, you want him to give it to them so they can give it to the wide players. And the front players, while I don't think any of them done well, they were starved of any sort of chances, any supply. And I'm looking at the two central midfielders and going, Tom Rogic was so influential in the game against Ibrox recently. Yep. He didn't have that, and the Hatate, I don't think, had a good game as well, and it really cost Celtic.
Do you agree with Melly's summation there, Stephen?
Yeah, I do. I think there were many fundamental systematic problems that Celtic faced in that. One of them that I was reminded of when Melly was talking there was Tom Rogic wasn't given a second on the ball the entire time. I mean, a second is generous. It's probably less than that. I don't think he had any influence over the game whatsoever, and it's because he wasn't allowed any space or any time on that turn that we all know that Rogic is, that ability to take the ball and turn and operate in tight spaces. He wasn't given the opportunity to do that whatsoever, and he is our main creative outlet in that team. Hatate, of the many, I've had a few issues with Hatate recently.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster for Hatate, isn't it?
I've had issues with him recently, but to be honest, having seen the game back, he is one of the. I mean, I'm not really that bothered with his contribution in it. I think he played like we know he generally plays now, quite erratic, quite poor in the pass, but I don't think he was that bad. I think we just didn't make use of anyone's strengths in that game at all, and Tom Rogic just was completely ineffective.
I think when you look to this game and when you say it's a poor game, I thought it was as well. I thought both teams, there wasn't
two shots on target either side got the whole game.
There wasn't many chances created. There wasn't many bits of play where I could think Celtic or Rangers ripped each other apart. It was chances were created by quick balls into the box and that sort of thing. But when you look at it and go, who were the best performers? And for Rangers, I'd probably say Lundstrom was the best player and Bassey. And you're just looking at it going, the best players were like the physical players because there was no real football, no real quality. And I think with the way Celtic play and with the way Ange wants to play his football, I think we've got good players for that. But when Giakoumakis came out the team and you take that one bit of physicality out with the two centre-halves, I think it really tells for Celtic because that's a different option going forward. But just John Lundstrom in that midfield, well, Cal McGregor is great at what he does. He's the only one that was sort of putting in tackles there, and I think in these type of games, sometimes you need that. And Celtic, I think it's the really only flaw really now is we lack that in certain positions. Now, I'm not talking about going out and just buying big players or physical players, but when we are looking in the summer to the sort of profile of players we'll get, so I'd say we need maybe a wide player, a left back, and maybe another central midfielder. The left back and central midfielder, I would like to be quite of a tall build and physical.
Rangers have got a couple of units in their team, don't they? I mean, Lundstrom's a bit of a unit. Aribo, Bassey, Goldson, they're all big, strong players, and especially midfield. That game sort of played out for me with the way I thought the Ibrox game would play, to be honest. And I said that I thought midfield battle, I thought John Lundstrom would come into his own there. But I think a lot of our players, as you said, Stephen, like Tom Rogic was taken out of the game by Bassey, wasn't allowed to get on the turn and start feeding players in. But see, when we did get the ball to the likes of Abada, when we did get the ball to the likes of Jota in particular, he was like a man down sometimes for me.
I think he started quite well. I think Celtic in general started quite well, but I'm kind of forcing that. I'm really talking about the first 6 minutes. Maybe he got down the sides and got a couple of crosses in. Jota had a header that was just over the bar. And really, I'm being very, very generous.
6 minutes is a long time, though, isn't it?
Sure. It was during that game. But Jota was, again, I don't think he was that bad. There was one where he won an important tackle towards the end and got Celtic a so-called chance. And I'm doing big air quotes in that Neil Lennon style there. But other than that, we didn't get any creativity out of these guys whatsoever. Abada was kind of lost in that game. Abada's... It's a conversation we've had so many times. He's been very, very effective this season, but I think at times he looks like still a very, very limited footballer on the wing. I think he's a really good finisher, but when he's not scoring goals, he doesn't really have
he's not a creator, is he?
He has got assists as well, but that's it's real hard to explain this. That what I'm reminded of with Abada creating a goal was the one in Europe where he picked up a loose pass and drove forward a wee bit, gave it to Kyogo, and he scored.
Yeah,
it's not like he swings in crosses or anything like that. So
Abada doesn't play well if Jota doesn't play well.
Right, yeah.
Because if nobody's creating chances for Abada, he's not going to fashion one out for himself. Because you've seen him when he got up the ball a lot of the time and was square up to his fullback, but he never took him on. He's not that type of wide player, is he? So if he's not going to do that, then he needs to be the guy getting in on the end of things like he did against Rangers at Celtic Park. But apart from that...
But this is the thing, and I don't want to cut you off too much, but this is why I sort of singled Jota out there, because we know what to expect with Abada. We know that's his limitations. We know what he was probably going to bring to the game on that side, and I think if everyone had their first choice, he probably wouldn't have started. Would have had Yakimakis and Maeda up there, but Jota as well... I can't remember him really challenging Tav at any point.
Well, his day was summed up quite early on when he had that wild shot for about 35 yards or something. There was a couple of them in the first half. It was Juranovic had one as well, just shooting for miles away. You're never, ever going to score for that distance. That looks desperate already in this game. See if you're taking wild shots for 30, 35 yards. And many times we talk about that last season.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally 1 in 100 of those will go in and it looks absolutely amazing. But the rest of the time you look as if you're just surrendering the ball for no reason.
And that's the thing, see, with Rangers having played the 120 minutes during the week, this is where Celtic didn't make the right decisions when they got into that final third. At that point, go drive towards a man, commit him, and then play it out wide and try and get the overloads. Celtic didn't get the overloads in wide positions with the midfielder, fullback and winger. Not once. There was no fullback going beyond, winger going inside or winger going on the outside. There was no getting to the byline and cutting anything back. And with the front three we had, we're not going to be whipping high crosses in to score goals like that. So what you need to do is play it low. But just can't remember us creating anything of that. There was so many times where we'd get in a position and you're like, right, drive and then play it out wide. And like those long shots, Rangers should be tired. There should be tired legs out there, but we never committed them. We never made them forced any errors. We never made them have to think on their feet. And it just showed us it looked lethargic and passive from Celtic.
It was very uncharacteristic, wasn't it? It was uncharacteristic for an Ange Postecoglou team.
The mistakes, forcing them into mistakes did happen again in this mythical 6 minutes I'm talking about right at the start. Maeda did force a couple of errors and he actually looked really up for it at the start. He chased down the keeper a couple of times. There was that one where McLaughlin took it ball at his feet and put it out for a corner. There was that, and he was chasing people down. Bassey was another one. He chased Bassey down and forced him into an error. And that was it. Didn't really capitalise on that. Didn't keep up that intensity and see what they've got. Because as much as I think maybe having looked at that and looked at the difference between the two teams, I wonder if we make too much of the fact that they played an extra game during the week and people kept saying, we've had 7 days rest. They're not resting for 7 days, they're still training and all that.
7 days preparation.
7 days preparation is a better way to put it. But yeah, they played a game and went to extra time during the week, but I can't help but wonder if we maybe just hang our hat on that things like that too much. Does it make a difference? I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
But we see with modern football, it's all about recovery, like science-based recovery and psychology and all that. Will it make a difference? But I don't think we can bank on players being absolutely shattered because they played 4 days ago.
Here, though.
That's it. Exactly.
I think if you win the game during the week, it's completely different to a loss. If Rangers had went out, the season would have been pretty much dead.
That's why I'm talking about psychology.
So the fact that they got through, they've got a semi-final in the Europa League to look forward to. There's not a player on that pitch that won't be thinking, here, if I perform at the weekend, I'll be in the team for this Europa League semi-final. So it's those fine margins where, as fans, as players, as management, if you lose a game, it can be quite lethargic going into the next game. But if you're on a high and you've got that to look forward to, it completely changes the complexion.
But Ange did say before the game, he was asked, you've got this 7 days, is that an advantage? He goes, only if you use it, if you use it correctly to prepare. And we've seen Euro hangovers before, and we've seen, as you say, the extra time and the late flights and all that. And all these things obviously didn't factor in the Rangers game there. But as you say, it's all very incremental, the benefit that you're going to get for this midweek game. But that being said, if you took a neutral and asked them what team played midweek, I reckon the majority of people without knowing would have said Celtic, because we looked leggier, we looked more tired. When it went 1-1, we looked less likely to get the win, and you're looking at us going, Celtic must have had a tough away trip midweek.
We made subs that looked in worse condition than anyone who had played not only 120 minutes during the week, but a further 120 minutes or 100 minutes at that point at the weekend there as well. So Celtic did look in worse condition in the subs that Celtic made, with the exception of maybe O'Reilly. I know, Melly, you disagree slightly on that. I thought you said he was kind of no better than anyone else, but I thought he stood out in very, very brief moments. But apart from that, the subs that Celtic made were absolutely chronic.
I think I'm sort of blinded by the fact that in this game, I was speaking to you before it, when games are like that, when you're not creating a lot, this is where set pieces come into play. And we scored a set piece against Rangers recently. We've scored quite a few from set, not directly, but second balls and all that sort of thing. Celtic have been quite decent from set plays, but in a game like that where there's not a lot of quality of chances, you're not creating much, and Rangers, again, on the back of that tough one, make them think, make them lose concentration. These short corners that aren't going anywhere near the box, put it into the area, make them think, make them panic, and we didn't do that. And when we did do that, Carter Vickers gets a chance and should score it.
Yeah.
Now, there was one where I think it was a short corner played to O'Reilly and he went to pass it back and he just played it out the park.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is in the second half where Rangers should be tired and you're not even putting them under pressure. And I think the whole game was summed up by that word Stephen said, like, intensity. There was no intensity from Celtic, and that was my biggest disappointment, because you think, right, go for the jugular here from the start, get the ball moved quickly, get on the turn, get at them, get our good players on the ball, but we didn't seem to do that.
I think for me as well, when you're trying to, so it's all very well and good saying it sits and it comes down to intensity and it comes down to this and that, but we're here to speculate about why about why that might be. And part of me thinks, you know, is there something you could have changed tactically if your game plan obviously wasn't working? So the manager needs to try and come up with a different way to play. But I think sometimes we suffer from a real lack of an outball, and we brought Kyogo on, I think, to be that outball. And it seemed when we came out for the second half, inexplicably we were worse. When we came out in the second half, in my opinion, we were worse. We kept looking for that Kyogo outball, but he just didn't look fit. He didn't look that great either. And at that point, you're starting to think, Christ, we're kind of running out of options here.
Kyogo as well. A lot has been made of his condition in it. I think that probably solves that mystery for us, because we've all, as a fan base, have all been screaming for Kyogo for weeks, and we've been disappointed that he's not been playing. Oh, he's been training, but no, he's only fit enough to play 20 minutes. So I think we can probably just accept that the manager sometimes knows better than us how prepared a player is for a game. I think the
problem with the Kyogo thing is, and not to jump in, I think I was thinking about this as well after the game. I'm like, so we were teased. The Kyogo thing's been, I know it's nobody's fault you're getting the fans hit up and excited about it, right? But we were told Kyogo and David Turnbull will be back after an international break. And then it was like, there's pictures of him training. And then it's like, he's going to be ready for it. He's going to be. And then it turns out he's not even fit for this. So why tease the return of Kyogo at all? See, fans came out midweek and went, maybe we'll get him on the pitch at Hampden. Then you'd be like, okay, but
it's all psychological.
In truth, we were told about 3 weeks ago that Kyogo was like raring to go. And I think he's nowhere near it.
You don't want to show your hand, but because it is a psychological thing. Like if you say, he's not fit enough to start, well, Rangers just start preparing not to play Kyogo. So there is that. But when you see him, Kyogo, he's not one of these guys that picks up the ball, skins 4 players and scores. He's an explosive player where one chance and he'll finish it. Sometimes he's not in a game. But the fact is, we didn't create many chances for him. And one of his main things is his pressing and all that, but he just didn't look like he'd do it. And he's had been injured before and came back like the cup final, but he wasn't out for 3 months, having had hamstring injuries, operations apparently on it. So when you're looking at him going, what does Kyogo bring? And everything he needs is speed, quickness of thought, all that sort of thing. And if you're going to be out for that long, you can't just get it back instantly, especially coming onto a powder keg game like that where chances and quality are few and far between, because he doesn't really fashion out his own chances. No. Kyogo, they're made for him, and he is a good finisher, and he creates the space by making runs. And if he can't do that, you're going to struggle. And Celtic seem to struggle to create chances. I can't remember McLaughlin having saves to make. And when you've seen him start, you think, wait a minute, Al McGregor can usually have a good game against us, but him and Joe Hart with 1 or 2 decent saves, but McLaughlin.
There's that again. How'd he get in there?
The names are not even alike.
No excuses as well, by the way, because Kyogo fitness and all that stuff, it was rubbish when he was rubbish. And I know he's not sharp enough, and we shouldn't fully judge him on that. But then he did come on against St Johnstone, looked really good, played a top class ball over the top from Maeda to create a goal. He was just rubbish when he came on in this. I think it was maybe the last kick of the 90 minutes. he went down the right, he picked up the ball on the right, he just passed it straight into one of Rangers' centre halves, and then O'Reilly won it back to win a corner for basically the last kick of the ball in the 90 minutes. It just wasn't very good. He had a really tame header towards that he put out for a goal kick as well. So it just wasn't.
The whole team were on low battery mode.
Yeah.
I think basically like that, and he was quite indicative of that. And you're looking for, in one of those games, Melly, you're looking for somebody to like rescue you. Do you know what I mean? There's always like, right, okay, so come on, right, okay, so it's not going to be Roderick. Then you're like, right, McGregor. And what is that game? Well, maybe McGregor's just playing a wee bit too deep to have that much influence in the game. Right, Jota's not at it. Right, can Abada come up with something? No, and then you're just sort of ticking off names as you're sitting in the stands. Right, okay, here comes Kyogo. Nah, he's not going to do it. Right, David Turnbull. Well, not him. All right, and you're like, fuck, somebody, man, take this game with the balls and get on it and make something happen.
Enter Jamesy.
Oh my God, we'll talk about him in a sec.
Jeez, I think.
In fact, do you know what? I don't want to be unkind about James Forrest when it comes to it, but Cardi, I mean, it's just I felt bad from there. One mention of his name, and I was like, oh Christ. Do you know what I mean?
I think Celtic sort of in the second half, I noticed that what Rangers had was John Lundstrom. Energy all about the pitch and picking the ball up and driving forward. Celtic's two midfielders, Rogic and Hatate, that's not quite their game, while they are really good players. But if they're not on it, you sort of need that box-to-box with a bit of physicality. And what Celtic tried to do a wee bit was have Hatate sit a wee bit deeper and get McGregor going forward. And again, it's just like, Celtic need like 3 Callum McGregors, and it's not possible. But the guy is so influential back in the number 6, or if he moves forward a bit, Celtic just lack that person just to get the ball, take it forward, beat a man, like go beyond a man or two and beat the press and break through the lines, to use all that sort of lingo. But we didn't have that. And when you're talking about the Celtic got the goal through a quick free kick, that was fine. And after that goal, I thought, right, see for the next 5-10 minutes, go at them. And if we get a second goal, this game is done. But that Cameron Carter-Vickers chance was the sort of game-changing one when you look back on it now. But it was strange in the stadium when Rangers scored. And I mean, Stephen, listening to the Football Ramble, they often talk about this. Sometimes when you're watching a game, you can just feel something turn. And when Celtic scored, I thought, we're going to win this, because I couldn't see Rangers fashion enough chances to get 2 goals against us inside the 90 minutes, because I thought if it went beyond that, Celtic would have more about them. But when Rangers scored, I was like, oh no. The only thing that was keeping me confident was the fact that we're not giving them, they're not creating anything, and we're not giving them anything to cling on to. Once they got that goal, that gives them more energy, more belief, and once they got that, it got their crowd going as well, and I think it had the sort of opposite effect on Celtic.
It certainly did, because when they scored, we all quietened down, and there was that wee section the Green Brigade get, and they were going, but the rest of the stadium felt quite quiet, and I was at that point, I just felt there was only going to be one winner after they scored the equaliser. But
see, jump in. What they say in the Football Ramble is sometimes you can feel a match changing, the momentum goes, and there's literally nothing MD on the pitch can do about it to change it. Fans and that, you can just see it going, and I just had that sinking feeling like, oh no, because I'm looking at the Celtic team and I'm like, only really Callum McGregor's turned up, really, so you can't have one guy doing that.
So I think that's where we as fans come in, though. I think if that happens again for the rest of the season, I think that's where the terms of unwavering support comes in. Even if you do feel it a wee bit yourself, I just think we need to try and really try our best to get behind the team and give them and fuel them, give them the energy, because it really did. The life was sucked out the Celtic end, and I was just watching random YouTube videos today. I said YouTube there, didn't I? I said YouTube.
On the YouTubes.
Yes, I said YouTube. I didn't say it. I was watching YouTube videos there, and actually the highlights of Liverpool and Istanbul came up.
All right.
And I was because I was thinking about this thing that the crowd, and see when Gerrard scored that first goal, he was right over at the crowd every time. He was geeing the crowd up, saying like, "Give us something to work off here." And I sort of felt like, not to reference Steven Gerrard when I'm talking about Celtic, but just that atmosphere, that the crowd sucking the ball into the back of the net. And I thought second half we were shooting into the Celtic end, and I thought, right, we're going to suck the ball into the back of the net here, and it just never came alive.
See on that, but I spoke about this a lot at the start of the season, like, when Celtic weren't playing well, the games against Dundee United and Livingston at Celtic Park, Celtic didn't give the fans anything to work off, and that's why it felt so flat in the game, because the players on the pitch felt flat. And see, if you're playing flat the whole game, it's going to feed into the fans. You need to give them something to work towards. Like that, after that Carter-Vickers chance, Celtic didn't create a single chance that you were going, they thought, no, when Celtic or somebody tries to make a pass or have a shot or a save or they win a corner and the crowd's like, that sort of thing, we feel there's a bit something building here. You never felt like Celtic were building anything, and that when you say that the fans have got to do something to get behind the players have to get the fans going as well.
I know that. I just felt, as I said, I think we all felt it shift, didn't we, in the stadium at that point? It's shite to say it. Do you know what I mean? It's like
shouldn't be
admitting
like
defeat slightly, but it's.
I think there's an element as well where I can only speak for myself, but I think there's everything we've already been talking about. Even if you're subconsciously thinking about how our Rangers must be shattered, though they played during the week, right?
Yeah.
There must when Celtic go 1-0 up, you think, right, brilliant. They can't make the changes. They must be shattered during the week. The longer this goes on, the better it'll benefit Celtic because we've been up against it, and they've not got an answer to us going 1-0 up. See, when they do score, that's when you're like, well, shit, that wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't in the script because they're meant to be knackered and we're meant to be in the ascendancy here.
Do you think that's seeped into the Celtic camp?
And
do you think it's a manager's job to protect the players from that sort of... What's the word? It's no lethargy.
Complacency.
It's complacency. Do you think a wee bit of complacency set in?
I couldn't possibly speculate on that. I'd like to think I'd like to think not. But when you say it's a manager's job, people say that a lot, but it's not simple as that because you are aware of the circumstances you're playing in. You will think, brilliant, we're 1-0 up. We're in the ascendancy here. All we need to do is keep going. And then you lose that goal and you think, well, I get what we might do.
I suppose I was more referring to the Rangers have played midweek. They're going to be tired stuff on the approach to the game rather than in-game. There's not much Ange can do for the sidelines in-game, but I meant on the approach. Do you think we went into that game thinking, we've probably already got a wee bit of an edge here because we've beaten them twice before. They played midweek. We have such a good record at Hampden. Do you think the Celtic team went in thinking, right, we could probably win this at 90%?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, it's human nature. You are aware of your circumstances, and there's no way that you can possibly say, as much as I'm trying to kind of pour a wee bit of cold water on the idea that it's the difference between the two teams going into the game, there's no way that you can't think that 7 days preparation, as Melly put it, is better than having played 120 minutes during the week. There's no way you can approach a game thinking any other way than it's better to go into a game like that. But it's only since that the game has been played where I've started to question it a bit, thinking, well, really, is it that much of a difference? Really, can you prepare? As long as you've got your active rest in and you've got every day prepared and all that, does it really matter that they played during the week? So I don't know. I can't speak for the players. We talk about changing the things in game. I don't want to fall into the trap of thinking like, right, well, here are the two players that didn't play and therefore they're the difference. We would have won this game had these two players been available. But when you actually think about making proper tactical changes in this Celtic squad, two names spring to mind, and it's Giakoumakis and Beaton, right? Yeah. As much as I've been, I've not really trusted near Beaton over the years, he has come on off the bench and made differences in recent games. He would have been an option to try and
move McGregor.
Yeah. Try and get a hold of that midfield a wee bit, because what's happened in the last couple of games is we've been overrunning midfield in a very similar way to Celtic did to them at Celtic Park. They were able to change that by bringing in Jack and Lundstrom and basically just totally changing the midfield, totally changing the approach. Celtic won at Ibrox, but they didn't really take control of the midfield battle in the same way that they'd done at Celtic Park. We don't have really that many options in midfield to do that. People can talk about Eddie Gucci and all that, but he's played about 70 minutes for Celtic. I don't know what he's like as a player, so I'm not going to invoke that name because I don't.
It's ludicrous, really, to suggest.
So you've got guys like Turnbull and O'Reilly and all that, but they're all quite similar. There's no one to take control of a midfield. Callum McGregor is very good at that, but he was swamped in that game, and I don't really know what else he could have done.
It's the type of thing you think that's probably what James McCarthy's. I know it's a bit daft because he's barely contributed, but he's that sort of profile, isn't he? Somebody that sits back in that six.
Yeah, I think this is what I was talking about earlier with Lundstrom. He's that sort of guy that is box-to-box dynamic, but as well when Lundstrom stayed on the pitch, but they also brought on Arfield. They were the two differences because they made those runs and beyond, whereas Rogic, Hatate, Turnbull, O'Reilly possibly, but they're all sort of guys that sit there and create rather than guys that burst into the box. It's like the sort of Petrov, John McGinn role at Celtic. While they have different options up front, like Maeda, Kyogo and Giakoumakis are all get different strengths. In midfield, all the players are sort of similar, whereas I think we have been linked with that Christopher Scott from Bayern Munich. I think that's a sort of different player we need in there, because in these games where you've got the players who are all good technically on the ball, and that's what I want Celtic to have, because when Celtic are at their best is when these guys are playing football, but sometimes in these games you need those guys who aren't the best technically but have that drive and that dynamism like Arfield and Lundstrom had. And that was a sort of difference, because Arfield isn't a great player but made those runs into the box when there was tired legs around him, and he got the goal. It wasn't as if Rangers ripped Celtic apart. It was a ball from their centre half, a good ball out to the right hand side and an early cross in, and Arfield happened to be there. It's not as if you can say pick out and go Celtic, because Kyogo does press Goldson, so it's not as if we weren't pressing it. It was just a good ball out and a ball across by Tavernier that he did mean to put it in an area, but it wasn't as if it was a cracking cross or anything, and it just sort of falls for Rangers. But that was that sort of difference. Celtic's changes didn't hinder the team, but didn't make them any better. When I look at that bench,
when we ended up with Welsh and Taylor as fullbacks, you're kind of thinking,
well, Taylor went off for Welsh.
Sorry, Welsh and Ralston.
Yeah, and I think that's what really hindered Celtic was the two fullbacks. If you've got 9 substitutes, you're maybe looking at it and going, right, you should really have 2 fullbacks, a right and a left fullback, to be able to change it. But as with Ralston, we just got unlucky that both our fullbacks went off, which meant we had to bring on Welsh as a right back and put Ralston at left back. I mean, that's patchwork at best, and it sort of hindered Celtic, because when they two move into the midfield, they're not comfortable. Ralston's not comfortable on that side, and Welsh is a centre half. There's no other position for him, and Welsh and Forrest, when they came on, just completely nullified any effect Celtic had that down that side again. I'm not going to have I'm going to have a go at James Forrest, because I fought it, and I'm trying to say, am I just thinking this is the way James Forrest always going to play? But people around me are like, that guy's hiding again. That guy's hiding, and even if he was or he wasn't making himself available. And when it's Stephen Welsh at right back, your winger has to be made available, because he's not going to go beyond players, so you have to make yourself available, and he didn't.
James Forrest, Stephen, falls into this camp of one of these Celtic players. So I think you'll look back and you'll think, God, that guy, I mean, the amount of stuff he won, the amount of managers James Forrest played under, I was going to say survived it was maybe a bit unfair, but there's a lot of managers come in and liked what they've seen with James Forrest and trusted James Forrest to do a job, and it seems like I think, aside from everything else, I think James Forrest's career at Celtic is maybe on the tail end a wee bit, just given, forget performances, I'm talking about age and all that sort of stuff, and as time goes by, his contract and stuff like that, it's on the end. But he's very much becoming a bit part player for Celtic, and those bit parts that he's played this season haven't said to me in any way, shape or form that this guy should be getting a starting place. He's firmly out of the picture now, and some of that stuff yesterday, even for their second goal, I mean, Calvin Bassey's running twice as fast as James Forrest, and Bassey's got the ball at his feet, and James Forrest can't get near him.
Yeah, I'm sure by now everyone will be aware, or most people listening or watching this will be aware of the videos that have been doing the rounds on Twitter of him trying and failing to chase Bassey back towards that cross. He looked desperately slow. And that he is a guy who has made a career of being, I mean, he's a talented player as well, but his main attribute has always been explosive speed.
Yeah.
And in that run, trying to chase back Bassey, and I accept that it's probably a difficult game to come into and make a difference with, but it took him 3 seconds to get up to a proper sprinting speed versus a guy who's already at full pelt and just tearing away from him.
Positionally, he was miles away as well there.
You see every stage of the James Forrest run.
You mean the neck, arms, shoulders? Pew.
That's exactly what I mean. And I know I've laughed over the years a lot at James Forrest's running technique, but I do actually think it's a concern now, because you see every stage of it. You go back and watch that video, Bassey is already running, and James Forrest takes a couple of strides, head goes down, arms come up, and Bassey's just tearing away from him the entire time.
Every academy graduate from James Forrest period of time comes out of that academy running weird. Ralston runs funny as well. A lot of the Celtic academy graduates.
That's that Celtic board. Hiring bizarre running, helicopter running.
They need to sign a running coach. That's what they need to sign now. But it's I was just like, as you said, Forrest was hiding. I just thought, at no point did I think, right, James Forrest is going to come on and bag as a goal here. Now, it might be unfair because he's already scored at Hampden this year already, hasn't he?
In the semi.
One of his couple of goals he scored.
But he's no... I think James Forrest's time at Celtic might even end this summer.
Well, I tread lightly when it comes to James Forrest, because I know he's one of these guys who's a very popular player for very obvious reasons. He's been here a long time and he's contributed a lot to Celtic's huge success, particularly in his peak was probably the 2 or 3 years that went from Rodgers and overlapped into Lennon. And then since then, in the 2 years since then, he's been struggling with injury and struggling for form as well. He's been on the verge of 100 goals for a long time now. I think he got into about the 90s in like 2020 or something like that. And I know, again, injury has played a huge part in that, where he's not really been able to contribute. I'm going to remain consistent on him, and I think he's declining as a player. Not only that, it's not about how he's finished. It's about the team has moved on from him.
Yeah.
Right? The team has moved on. And I came away thinking I was at the St Johnstone game, obviously, with you and Melly, and I said see the guys that didn't play in that team, you'd be crazy to give them new contracts because none of them are getting into that. See, when Celtic get at full flow, they're not going to contribute to anything close to that level of intensity. I go say it again, that level of intensity and attacking flair and form. And I think James Forrest comes into that camp. I'm not going to use the word finished because that's not really how football works. He's only 30 years old. He can still contribute. He will still pop up with the odd goal here and there. But that's no different to when I said that about Lee Griffiths 2 years ago. I said, look, he's on the way out here. Will he get the odd goal? Aye, but that doesn't mean you'll go, written off too soon. James Forrest will still be able to come in and play well, but I think he's got 1 year left in his deal, and at the end of that contract, he'll be 32. And well, I don't really see anything picking really up for him in that meantime. So he'll have had 4 years of being kind of a bit part player at Celtic. If he gets to the end of that contract, you don't give him another one. No, absolutely
well,
not.
That's why I think his career at Celtic maybe, not that he's a bad player, not that he's a terrible player and all that sort of stuff. He's came, he's contributed, he's got 1 year left in his deal, and he might be going, look, there's teams out there that might offer him a 3 or 4 year deal at his age, and he would probably rather take that and play games than stay at Celtic.
Well, Scott Brown got a 2 year contract at 36 or whatever he was when he went to Aberdeen, definitely.
So I think there's probably a future for James Forrest. I'm just not sure it's contributing to Angie's team.
I don't think so either. I think when you look at James Forrest, the way I look at it is, right, okay, if he's going to be at Celtic next season, say one of our wingers get injured, do I see James Forrest coming in and playing 10 games in a row and really contributing for Celtic? You're going to have to go back seasons before that happened. Like, it plays and he goes out the team, comes in and out. But if you're saying, just keep him there, he's been a good servant, but at some point he has to play, and when he is playing, he's not doing enough. He done well against Livingston. That was months ago now, and he's not done anything since. So James Forrest, you can be a good player for the club, you can be a legend, but your time at the club also comes to an end at some point. Not everybody's going to be Henrik Larsson, who's good for 7 seasons and then leaves. Like James Forrest, when you looked at him years ago, think, what are his strengths? And all his strengths are things that start to dissipate with the older he gets. And now he's at that stage. You're looking at it, right, he's not going to go and play any other position. The way Ange wants to play is wingers stay wide, get to the byline, get crosses in. James Forrest simply isn't doing that anymore, and we might be concentrating a lot on a guy who only came on in the second half. But when
senior player though, isn't he? He's
that's the reason you talk about him, because we've probably spent more time tonight talking about James Forrest than Jota. And Jota started the game, and James Forrest came on for the last 15-20 minutes.
Yeah,
but that's why, because of how much history and how much he's contributed in the past to the team.
And that's my point. Like, Jota has been good. I'm saying Jota. He's at my head. Jota has been good and he's contributed a lot to Celtic. He would always start if he was available because he can always contribute. James Forrest, while he's not done that, at the same time, you're talking about squads. You need players to come on in big games to change that. And when he came on, I didn't think he was going to do anything that would scare Rangers. He didn't pin the fullback back. Even Jota put a good ball across to the back post. And he wasn't even ready to get in on it.
He wasn't even anticipating it.
Abada didn't have a good game, but Abada's in on that. Maeda's in on that at the back post. Kyogo's in on that. Forrest was miles behind play.
See, just on Jota, I know we mentioned him briefly earlier on. We had this conversation on the podcast way back when, maybe it'd been October time, about who's the best player on the team. And it was sort of, at the time, we're like, Kyogo or Jota? Is that who's the best player? But I feel like since he was injured, since he's came back, he's not really contributed to the levels that we saw back when we were having these conversations. And honestly, if I've only got one £6 million token, if Dermot gives me the £6 million, I'm spending it in Carter Vickers, and I'm not even thinking about Jota, because to be a top level Celtic player, to be one of the sort of elite start, you can't just play well for make a name for yourself in the first 4 months of the season and then think, oh, I've done my work here. And there was a lot of people I'd listened to some other podcasts and a few other articles that were writing as if Jota was playing yesterday. He was just playing for himself. He was hoping to have a good game for himself, some highlights for his DVD so his agent can send it on to other clubs. And I'm thinking that if Jota if on current form, if he left us at the end of the season, I wouldn't be that disappointed. I'd be like, right, thanks for your contribution, but if that's what we get out of you, if that's the package you get with Jota, if it's 4 good months and the rest of the season of pretty average wing play, then I'm happy to let you go.
The thing with wingers are that they are inconsistent. They can have patchy form, but Jota was great for a spell, but in 2022 he's had the Aberdeen game, but
St Johnstone game, was it good then?
Well, everybody was good then, so you can say that. But
against Rangers away, was it good then?
He done his defensive work, he pressed really well, but what you're looking from Jota, which Celtic needed, and they needed it that day, everybody to put in the work. But Jota, you're looking for a bit of magic from him, and we haven't really seen that recently. And when I look at wingers, I'm going, right, your job is to create, and in games like that, when Celtic aren't creating, I will say, right, we didn't get the ball to him enough. But when the times we did, he didn't do it, did he? Nah. And it's why when there's a clamour at the start of the season when Jota's doing well, just pay the money now. And where guys like, there's a reason he's on loan for the season, because as much as Celtic might have signed Jota the instant he was good, at the same time, this is why it's a season-long loan, because you get to the end of the season and see what's best for both parties. Now, £6 million is a lot of money to pay for a guy. I still think if push came to shove, I would go for Jota if he wanted to come. Maybe if he has a permanent deal and he's settled at Celtic, he'll get back to his football. But right now, you're looking at it going, well, 50-50 whether you pay it for him now, but with Carter Vickers, you'll definitely pay it. But that's up to Jota to get back on form. We know he can be a good player, like we know we've seen it from Hatate, but we need to see more from him. And just when I'm thinking about the good games he's had, if you're going to pay $6 million for a guy, and I still think Celtic should, he's had 3 games against Rangers now. He's not really done it, and these are the games where you pay the big money for players to change the game. Kyogo's had big games, Giakoumakis has had big games. Jota's not had that one yet.
Fellas, have you started spring cleaning yet? The carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing. Spring has sprung, and the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming have the best tools for cleaning aisle 5 in your pants. Time to clear out your winter bush and join 4 other million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35 and is giving support for fighters, survivors and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. So, get 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Worth talking about Bobby Madden?
see before we do.
Oh, do what you're saying, Jota?
Yeah, but definitely park that. We'll keep that engine running, shall we? And we'll jump back into that bus. But here's why Jota is different to Cameron Carter-Vickers, in my opinion, aside from the obvious different positions and all that. But that's mainly my point. I think Carter-Vickers has been so good and so suitable to this team that I think it's not even a debate. See if it's between the two. If those are the parameters of the debate between the two, it's not a contest.
I wouldn't sign him, mate, after that miss.
He did. Absolute fraud. It was like Edward when he missed the Ibrox. He meant to miss that.
Checked it.
In my opinion, the centre halves like that who are going to be suited to how Celtic... I mean, I don't really care about the system. He's been such a good defender and he's popped up. He's been so good this season, I don't really care about stuff like that. Centre-halves, to me, are more of a premium than wingers would be in Europe. Could you sign a guy like Carter-Vickers who, with Starfelt and maybe the addition of one more, let's maybe even get somebody on loan for next season, I don't know yet, could form the centre-half partnership for several years to come with Starfelt, right? But can you just go to a Benfica, a Bayern Munich, a Man City and get another winger like that on loan for next season who would probably contribute something similar? I think that's more likely than finding a centre-half that would play the way Cameron Carter. Again, based on nothing at all, based on just my opinion, I think you would be able to find creative players out there who would turn this kind of performance in. And what we would do if we get rid of, or we can't sign Cameron Carter-Vickers, is what we talked about, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We'd end up scouring European leagues, trying to pick something up for like £800,000 or something like, taking gambles on guys like,
plus we just love Carter-Vickers, don't we?
Yeah, there is that.
Podcast, we do love him.
Yeah, I think so. You sign Cameron Carter-Vickers, the Jota thing is up for debate for me. But I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I think he had a bad game. I think he's been really good this season, but it was weird that he was starting to remind me of his hero a wee bit on Sunday, Cristiano Ronaldo. Kind of going a wee bit huffy, taking things a wee bit too personally, taking things on too much, taking players on, smashing it off shins, taking wild shots for everywhere, taking free kicks wildly over the bar and all that. So yeah, not great.
Was that a first free kick he hit, by the way? I can't remember. Doesn't he take them regularly, does he?
No, I think Juranovic was off the pitch at the time.
Oh, was it?
But I think with Jota, Forrest, Abada, Maeda, all played out wide, and none of them got in the game. None of them played well. So you can go, right, Jota had a bad game individually, but when 4 players play in 2 positions and none of them look good, it's not fully down to the individuals. But with Jota as well, I still think I'd sign him if Celtic win the league, at the Champions League money. We know Jota's done well. He's contributed a lot. He's just going through a wee bad stage now. But if you don't get Jota, that means we need to go into the summer and sign a Jota replacement. But I also think we need another wide player. So to go out and find 2 good wingers this summer would be very difficult.
I did think it would be a tall order, beating Rangers, 4 times? How many times did we play? 4 times in a month or so? Like,
my mate, sorry, jump in. My mate texted me before the game and just said, look, can this season be this perfect? Can we beat them and then beat them in the league and win the league? And when the teams are so close, like, rarely do you win all the derby games. So if
and then
you're
also,
going to lose one, the teams are quite even.
That would have been us in a treble. And we did say, although last week we're on the verge of treble, we jokingly said, look, you don't just turn up and win trebles.
One does not simply.
One does not simply walk into.
We've been kind of spoiled recently because it's either treble or nothing for Celtic.
Yeah.
We won 4 trebles in a row and it kind of becomes the norm. But this is why trebles are difficult to win. Like,
just ask Rangers.
Well, it's very difficult for them. Celtic have been playing so well and then had a bad season last year, and then we get this manager that comes in, massive rebuild, but yet we're on the verge of a treble before the weekend. You're like, oh, imagine we do it. But what I was thinking of trying to console myself today was, like, see if Celtic went out and won a treble, maybe guys like Jota and Carter-Vickers go, do you know what, I've done it here. What else is there for me to do? Whereas at the end of the game, no matter how disappointed you are, Stephen, you said, look, if we lose, it's not the end of the world. As long as we get the league over the line. It was bitterly disappointing yesterday. Celtic played poorly and could have played so much better, but we've seen them play better. And I was a wee bit encouraged by at the end of the game. Callum McGregor got everybody in a huddle, and I'm guessing he said, look, they're celebrating. We can't let this happen again. We have to do better than this. Sometimes you need a wake-up call like we get in Europe, Stephen, but Celtic aren't used to getting these wake-up calls because we've been so dominant recently. If Celtic are winning the league, we usually win a treble. Well, we might win the league and not win the treble. It doesn't mean it's a bad season. Celtic had a bad game, but we know we can play better, and sometimes you need these wake-up calls to go, do you know what? Maybe we aren't quite where we think we are yet. And I think to more of an extent, Rangers aren't as bad as we think we are. So I think that's just
really the only
leveler.
positive you can probably take overall for the game. You did kind of sum the game up, so I just want to wind the clock back a wee bit.
I wanted to get all this out before we tear into Madden.
We tear into Bobby Madden. Stephen, Bobby Madden, celebrity ref.
Shoe polish for the old beard.
Took the beard, yeah. Would you call him Hollywood Hogan? Mason Ramon. So he took to Instagram.
Jesus.
A mere hours. He couldn't have even showered and dried off by the time he'd taken to Instagram to tell everyone to have a happy Easter having a game. Conspiracy theories, whatever conspiracy theory you want to have about referees in this country, you don't even need one. The incompetence for these match officials week in, week out is just mind-boggling sometimes. There's no need to talk about conspiracies. There's no need to talk about, people on Twitter talking about match fixing and all that. All these things might be true. We'll never know, right? We'll never know. But we don't have to indulge in them to have a serious debate about how awful the refereeing was. Some of these, and I've said it before, a couple of things happen with refereeing decisions, right? The referee looks at it and makes a mistake. You can think, right, it hit off him before it went out, or that was a foul when it wasn't. He was badly positioned, right? But see, when the errors happen where you're watching the ref, he plainly sees it but then either does nothing or makes a decision that's contrary to the reality that you've just witnessed. You're thinking, what did you see there? And there was so many of those with Bobby Madden. You're thinking, what went on? And the thing about the bookings, I find what constitutes a booking in Bobby Madden's book is mystifying to me, because we left that game and we were talking about it jokingly. John Lundstrom didn't get booked. It was people were talking about it on Scottish football podcasts. It was in the paper. We put a tweet out earlier saying, by the way, a lot of people seem to think Lundstrom got booked. He didn't. And the amount of people tweeting us going, I read it in such and such, such and such. He never get booked.
No.
It was bizarre.
100 minutes he played and didn't get booked. But everyone, based on how he played, assumes he got booked because he committed so many fouls. And again, it's Sir Grex. But to talk about the referee under these circumstances. But in fairness to us, we've been fairly consistent. Even when we're winning, we complain about the referee. So it's only right that we do it here just now, because it was an incredible performance from Madden. Now, I want to establish just now that Celtic didn't deserve to win that game, right? No. They weren't good. They just didn't put in a good performance. However, the referee is still an important part of these games, and he was... erratic is putting it very, very gently, because there were some decisions made in that game that can't be explained. There was a video doing the rounds. Again, I keep referring to Twitter videos, but it's because they're so widespread, and like, people are really good at bringing context to things that you might have missed during the game. Like, there was one where
the free kick, calls it back for a foul.
A very gentle foul was committed. I think the free kick was given to Celtic. Celtic play it long, and he brings it back and then gives the ball to Rangers or something like that. So that can't be explained. I don't know. It was like, was it him that did that weird drop ball thing at Celtic Park?
Yeah, they done one in the game. There was a drop ball on the edge of the box because I think Rangers had a player injured, Celtic had the ball, and he done a drop ball that Rangers got.
And drop balls aren't contested anymore, so it's basically just getting the ball to Rangers.
And see all the journalists, and I've heard a few of some of the ones you've mentioned as well. I think Graham Spears had a podcast out after the game, and they were talking about the referee, and they were saying, the referee, he didn't have a great game, but it was fine. But see, if you're looking at that game, and a lot of people have admitted or really revealed in the course of these analyses that Lundstrom, he might have got a booking, and he might have deserved a second one. But apart from that, if that is included in your analysis of the game, then everything you say about it is fundamentally wrong, because you are confirming that you think Lundstrom should have been sent off in that game if you think he was booked and maybe deserved another one, because that booking didn't come. What you're talking about is 2 clear yellow cards through the course of a game, and he was the man of the match. So the idea that he could have got a second yellow card.
And the notion that a referee has no material impact in the game is nonsense, right? It didn't make a difference to the outcome. Now, we all accept that in the name of sportsmanship. But if you're saying the referee's performance had no outdone, you don't know that. You don't know had Joe Rebo, because it was Stephen McGowan on Graham Spears' podcast. Look, I like Stephen McGowan. Stephen, I like you. I don't know if you listen to this or if you watch, but Stephen McGowan said, I don't think for a minute the referee's performance had an outcome on the game. He goes, Rebo maybe should have been sent off, and yes, Lundstrom should have probably got a second yellow, and there was that bizarre free kick at the edge of the Celtic box that Aaron Ramsey got a shot off from. Those are 3 game-changing things. Rebo getting sent off, Lundstrom getting sent off, and if Aaron Ramsey scores that free kick that they should never have got at the edge of the box, that's 3 game-changing moments that, contrary to what you said to begin with, would have had a material effect on the outcome of the game.
See, the one that I just can't get my head around is that one where Celtic get awarded the free kick, play it quickly out wide, and Jota gets the ball. It's 3-on-3 there. So Celtic have got a chance to go and equalise there late in the game. He brings it back, and you're like, why are you bringing that back for a start? Is it because you think Rangers aren't ready? That's not your job. Rangers' job is to be ready, not for you to get them ready. Because that one, I can go on about, should have been sent off in that, but that one is late in the game. Rangers got their goal by getting the ball out wide quickly and getting it in the box. If Celtic had the opportunity to do that, you don't know what would have happened there. So I need you to explain why you brought that back, because there's nothing in the rule books. The ball wasn't rolling. Rangers players weren't in the way. The only thing that was happening there was Rangers weren't ready. That's not a referee's job to get a team ready.
I'm convinced Bobby Madden just wants to be one of the boys. But I don't think, I'm being fair, I don't think there's all these wild conspiracy theories about Bobby Madden and ex-Rangers. I think people said to me that he used to have a season ticket at Ibrox, but I thought that was the other one. I thought, was that not John Beaton?
Is this like Craig Beattie's Rangers tattoo from when he was about 12?
The point I'm making is, see, all these other conspiracy theories aside, I think Bobby Madden just wants to be one of the boys. He just wants to be a footballer. He just wants to be liked.
Oh, just want to be loved.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to get slagged in open goal.
He
wants
doesn't
to
want
be
to
with the boys.
So he just lets so much go that should never be let go in a million years. Now, there's a clip doing the rounds. All the Rangers accounts are retweeting the one where John Lundstrom goes through McGregor. A couple of things there. McGregor wins the ball.
Aye.
John Lundstrom didn't go through. McGregor just leapt over Lundstrom to get out the way of his wild challenge. But it's in front of the referee and he studs her up and he goes through the ball. It's a booking. Aye. It's like captured. Do you not think so?
I don't know. I think it's two players going in a 50-50. There was
It's not two players going to 50-50. Lundstrom leaves the ground to win the ball like this and McGregor's still on his feet. But what I'm saying is, it's a foul, it's a booking, and it's the thing the Rangers fans are celebrating when really they didn't win the ball anyway.
No, they didn't win the ball. Celtic come away with the ball. If you're just looking at a hard tackle, you're taking away all the context. With I think they're just wanting it to be their Jozo and Kenny Miller, aren't they? Yeah. And that's fair enough. But I'd take a lot of umbrage with a lot of Bobby Mann done, but with that one, I can't really see it. Maybe his foot was off the ground, but it's not a big deal for me. It was arrested. I'm just like, what are you doing? And I think there is something in what you say. Like, it seems to be the kind of liked players in Rangers team are the ones that don't get booked for me. So, but look, Celtic should have done better.
He's on this, but the thing is, he's on this circuit as you say, does the podcast and he's on Instagram and he's pals with all the football.
Joy, come on, Bobby.
He'll be doing the rounds once he's retired. But this is the thing, and then the social media. We've called him the celebrity ref long before this game took place. And I honestly think that's what it is. He wants to be one of the boys. He wants to be liked. He wants to be the most popular ref amongst all the players and all that. And by doing that, he just has to let things go that should never be let go in a game.
See, a lot of the bookings in that game, I think, were arbitrary. I think like if there was a period in the game where there was a lot of tackles going in, a lot of questionable tackles, a lot of debatable ones, just hard tackles. I think you can see Bobby Madden doing the calculations where you think, wait, I'm going to need to book somebody at some point here. Can I book every day? So I'll need to pick the right one to really get a hold of this game and really stamp my authority over it. But then he just sort of did nothing and then just started booking players almost at random. So there was no... do you know what? I've always thought about this about football anyway. A lot of bookings are just sort of made up based on the referee's whim anyway, because you see a lot of the same things happening in games, and the word everyone uses is inconsistency. So that happens kind of across the board. But in that game in particular, I think he just started handing them out willy-nilly to players that he thought, right, well, this is a good time to do it because people won't lose their aggro me. This is maybe a good time to do it because it's not really getting out of control.
Well, that's it. It's because and that's, I think, what you're saying, maybe me and you're saying the same thing, just saying it in different ways. He wants to referee the game the players want the way the game refed. So he just wants to let the game flow in favour of the players. He's like, right, now's a good time, but I'll book him. John, he's in his head going, well, John Lundstrom's a physical player. That's the way Big John, I know Big John, that's the way he likes to play the game. I don't want to book him because then he'll know, because then if he goes in the tunnel, what you book me for, that means I can't play the way I always play. You know, it's... I think that there is... I hope I made sense here. I said a lot of words.
I'm trying to get my thoughts on it, but what I meant earlier is I think he books players because he thinks, I can book him because I probably won't need to send him off. That's why I didn't book Lundstrom, because he thought, I might need to give him another one later, so I'll let him have another one. It's something Celtic were terrible.
What was the McGregor booking for again? I've completely forgotten, but as I look at my notes, I see he's booked.
I think it was for a trip on somebody, but there was...
Did they complain about something as well?
There was roof and there was a lot of trips breaking up Celtic's play, but this is the thing we've spoken about all season, not just when we play Rangers, other teams. It's not the fact that you don't book a player, it's just the fact you book him so late on that he's been able to have an effect on the game, whereas if you had booked him for the first foul, which was a booking, he wouldn't have been able to do the next two or three, and that's the big problem I have with it.
And just, I'm not saying that there's like Italian style referee cheating going on, but it's always worth mentioning that. I always feel it's worth mentioning this, right? The Italian refereeing scandal, the way they did it wasn't by immediately going out and sending the star player off within 5 minutes for nothing. It was for turning a blind eye to 50-50s and all the wee incremental where it could go, I could book him and I couldn't. They wouldn't. It was that sort of cheating that took place. But one thing I find remarkable in this country is even if that did take place, we would never find out, because the minute someone goes, that referee had a horror show, you wonder what he's thinking. journalists are throwing them, catching bullets and knives, going, you can't, what you suggest, and the referees are incompetent. Well, don't want to hear it.
That's exactly what I thought when you said about Stephen McGowan saying, it's not about the referee. I think that's basically just a reflex that people have to make sure that they don't become the headline. If some journalist or whoever or pundit comes out and says that the referee was the difference in that game, you'll be absolutely pilloried for it because you're not allowed to say it in this country, and that'll be a massive nationwide scandal if someone has the audacity to say that a referee had a bad game.
Are you worried about the league after that result?
I did come away from that thinking the Ross County game away on this weekend coming is massive now, absolutely massive now. I think I just want to get the league over with as soon as it's possible to get this sealed. I'm not. I said last week that I wouldn't think it was the end of the world if we lose that game as long as we go on to win the league. But that's without the context of the game having been played, and I think that there's a definite psychological advantage to having gone out and just what other stuff we were talking about, the so-called tiredness and all that, and just went out and looked at the fitter, stronger, more hungry team. There's definite psychological advantages that come with that. So I'm really hope that Celtic can go out and blow Ross County away, because I think a win going into the game against them is absolutely crucial. I do not want to go into that game on anything other than a pretty sturdy win.
Melly?
I have to stay consistent. I said recently, I think if Celtic lost this game, I still think we have enough to go into this, and I stick by that. I think two teams are quite close. They're both decent teams. Rangers just got the better of Celtic. Celtic got the better of Rangers recently at Ibrox. There wasn't much in the two games. So I think Celtic can go out there and look, it's not as if we're looking at Celtic going, we played bad there, then the game before that. Celtic came in off the back of their best performance of the season against St Johnstone, absolutely blew them away. Coming into this, shouldn't have really had any excuses, just didn't play well on the day. So I think, as I said, sometimes you need a wee wake-up call to go, here, we're not quite where we think we are sometimes. Maybe the fans need it more than the players, because I don't think Ange would allow the players to get like that. But sometimes as fans, we need a wake-up call. We just need to go out there and go again. 5 games to win the league. If Celtic come out this season with a league and a League Cup in this season, that's a phenomenal achievement. And
so do we need 3? We need to win 3 of our next 5 games to secure the league, basically?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, we play Rangers within that, so it kind of seals it then. But Celtic have got the chance to go 9 points clear before Rangers play at the weekend. I think they're at home to Hearts, aren't they? And look, Hearts have got something to play for now that they've got a cup final against Rangers, so they won't want to go out and get blown out the water. Probably will because of the Hearts. But so Celtic, look, it's all down to Celtic. If Celtic can go out and play like they did against St Johnstone, they should be good enough to beat Ross County, Rangers, Hearts, Dundee United, Motherwell. But just need to go out and do it. We're a good enough team. We've got the players to do it. Time to shine, because even if you look back at the end of the season and go, a league and a cup, that's a very good season from where we've come from. It's just, you can be happy with that, but you can still be very disappointed with the individual performance in that game as well.
So I think I'm one of those fans you were talking about, Melly. I just needed to be reality check, because Dingwall's super important. We've already struggled there this season, and I think do you know what, Stephen? I would just feel a lot better if we just beat Ross County handily and got back to winning ways. Because
we have Horlicked it up there in the past. So yeah, I wouldn't say I was nervous, right? But it has just put things in a wee bit of kind of stark reality. As a reality check, as we've been talking about, it is just we do get carried away as fans, and I think a lot of people are still in everybody's just incompetent. Rangers are like hopeless. See, if there's a bit of truth in that, and really Rangers are on the way back down from last season. Some of their better players are probably leaving this season, at the end of this season. And Celtic are on the way up. Both of those things can be true, but we've probably kind of met somewhere in the middle. And just at this moment in time, there's no really anything between the two teams. And I think we've just come a cropper in a game between two quite closely matched teams. Because I've seen a lot of and it's only natural. It's, again, we're all football fans at the end of the day. The scattergun comes out after these games. But what I would say is, there is a wee bit of perspective needed on these things.
One loss in 35 domestic games?
We're at the end of a months-long unbeaten domestic run there.
September?
Yeah, September. I think we need to kind of gather ourselves a wee bit. Now, I hasten to add that saying that, you would have accepted this at the start of the season, that's not how it works, right? That yes, I would have, but what I said 6 months ago doesn't count when you're in a semi-final and you lose it, right? So I'm allowed to be disappointed with that, even if I wasn't expecting it.
Oh, you're not,
ago.
mate, because see if you go on social media, that game was garbage. You're drowning in people going, oh, for God's sake, have a bit of perspective. And just came in, mate, we know that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's no, you don't arrive at the beginning of the season, then just see what happens at the end of the season, and the middle bit doesn't count.
Read the Wikipedia page and I accept all that. Having said that, though, I think like one result, and it's a big one. It was bad, right? It was a bad performance.
It's a cup semi-final.
Yes,
you want to win it.
It was a bad performance. I hated watching it, to be honest. I thought Celtic were pretty garbage, and we've been over the reasons why we think that. But one result, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is it's a catastrophic failure of management. It's a strategic disaster from
all these
top
players
to, top
on
to
Angie's
bottom."
players again.
Yeah, there's all of that. Oh, the system's broken. We need the players to suit Angie's system. Yada yada. Look, we just lost a game, man. That's all it boils down to. It was a close game. It was a bad game, and we lost it. Even if you take the cups, right, or just the Scottish Cup, right? See, this is back of a fag packet. Stats here. See, the unfortunate thing about us being videoing, I would have cut that out and made it really smooth. But just basically off the top of the head here, in the Scottish Cup, sandwiched between 2 defeats to Rangers over 5 or 6 years, so taking the Warburton catastrophe right up to now, so all the games in between those, I think Celtic have played 25 games in the Scottish Cup, which is ridiculous for that period of time anyway. Won 24 of them, lost 1, right, which was last season when Rangers put us out. I think scored 72 goals, conceded 12, and 1/4 of those goals was to Partick Thistle over the course of many years. And it's just, we've come to the end of that ridiculously sustained success that Celtic have had. We're on the way back up again, but it's just a bump in the road. So all this, it's the board, it's this, it was just a game. Look, Bayern Munich going out of the Champions League to Villarreal last week, is that a catastrophic failure from the top of that club to the very bottom, or was it just a bad result and bad performance? Man City what were they, 3-0 down to Liverpool? Is that just they know what they don't know? They don't know how to run a football club, that Man City. It's exhausting, right? I'm as disappointed as anyone. Don't like losing to Rangers ever, but again, just you don't have to be happy with it, but let's not caterwaul about it, to be perfectly honest. I think we're all right.
Yeah.
Caterwaul?
Yeah. Wow. The games need to be played on the pitch, don't they? You can say they should be tired, they should be this, they should be that, we should do this, but at the end of the day, game's got to be played, you've got to go out and win it. But Jamie, that was quite impressive stats for just off the top of the head, being able to rhyme off all the goals.
I know, unbelievable.
Can you see I'm reading these? I'll put it down there if it's obvious.
Just off the top of the head.
Well, I think it was. Right, well, there we go, outed.
Look, we were pish. And that's the bottom line, right? And we're allowed to be pish, but we've still got faith that we're going to wrap up this league. 5 games to go. We will be there. We'll be covering it all. We'll be covering it from beginning to end, no matter what happens. I didn't plug Patreon today, but you all know that already. Patreon.com/20minutetims. And it's not just if you want extra content, extra videos, fantastic writing, fantastic podcasts, and more of us. It's if you're watching this flagship and you think, you know what, I like those 3 guys, I like what they're doing, I want to help support it. Patreon.com.
Even if you just like 2 of us.
Even if you just like 2 of us, or 1 of us, or none of us. Patreon.com/20minutetims. is where you can support the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing and commenting and all that good stuff. Goodbye.